Okay, and I'm going to move pretty rapidly because there's only one other place on Earth that I know that has a similar structure, and that's at Petra.
Mm-hmm.
The Petra's a very popular site in Jordan where they've carved into the mountain. They've carved temples and amphitheaters. But on the top of a mountain above Petra, there's a similar pair of obelisks there that is carved the same way by cutting off the top of the mountain. And the mountain is leveled off to be like a platform, and it leaves an obelisk sticking up. Again, granite, hard, permanent structure. Neither of the obelisks has any signatures, any signs on it. No religious symbols or anything. They're just there. Okay, now some of you probably know that 2 points on the surface of the Earth determine a great circle. You can pass a great circle through those 2 points and the center of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like the equator is our most famous.
Yes.
If you draw a great circle through the Machu Picchu obelisk and the Petra obelisk, you get a great circle, the equator of the Earth, around 80,000 BC. Okay, we're learning a lot about the poles fluctuating.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the first one. It's called the old equator because it was at one time the equator, and it just so happens that when the humans were coming out of Africa about the first time, about 80,000 BC.
We're talking with Robert Berringer about his book, Ancient Gods and Their Mysteries, Will They Return in 2012 AD. We're talking about an idea of an old equator, not the equator that we are used to, but a different equator that cuts through all of the major sacred sites of the planet. So I'll let you get back to it.
Right, so let's go around the old equator, traveling, let's say, east from Petra.
Mm-hmm.
It goes across Mohenjo-Daro.
Yep.
On the Indo River. That's an old civilization.
It's not quite as old as Sumerian and Egyptian.
It's pretty. Some put it number 3 between Sumer and Egypt. The problem is we haven't been able to read their script.
Right.
So there's a lot we don't know about Mohenjo-Daro. But then going east from Mohenjo-Daro, the circle, the old equator, goes across Angkor Wat, which has those famous temples in Cambodia.
Yes.
With a very mysterious grouping of very ornate temples that almost go back to the dawn of civilization in Cambodia.
And a lot of sacred kind of archaeoastronomy encoded in those temples.
Many of us are very impressed with Angkor Wat. Now, I got to take a shortcut here.
Okay.
Is if you go from Angkor Wat through the center of the Earth, you end up again on the Great Circle, as you might expect, Easter Island,
mm-hmm.
which might surprise us, right? So we get here another enigmatic location. If we go east from Easter Island, you go across the Nazca,
mm-hmm.
with all these carvings on the sand that you can see from the airplane, but
yes.
you can't hardly recognize them from the ground.
It's amazing. You have a page within your book, and you name all of these sites and show how far they are off this old equator, and it's fascinating. Some of them are 0 miles off of it. Some of them are 3 or 9. I mean, the farthest one, it looks like, is Angkor Wat, only 85 miles off that.
Right.
But
85 miles around the circumference of the Earth is not very much, right?
Right.
That's pretty accurate.
I mean, it's amazing when you look at this list of sites and how close they come to this old equator that you propose.
I almost forgot to mention that the old equator goes through Giza.
Yes.
Right. The Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. So all these things are pretty mysterious. I have on my website, cloudriderbooks.net, I have a article on this old equator that's even more custom for the internet, say, than my book. And there's a growing interest with different people, say, copying this article.
It's a logical idea. And are you saying that perhaps when the poles were in we were having some kind of a disturbance, that's what caused this slipping or rearranging of the equator, some type of flipping of the poles or magnetic disturbance or something?
The main theory is that the crust of the Earth slips due to some disturbance, or just like volcanoes and earthquakes and things can cause a slippage of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And finishing up the old equator, it goes through Eridu, the first city on Earth. So I think the gods are trying to tell us something with this old equator. I think they're trying to give us a sign.
And that sign is that they existed alongside us, or that there's a change coming?
Yeah, I think maybe both. I think that I see a lot of activity along the old equator, and so I see a lot of activity in the past, and it might be pointing to the future, like future activity like 2012. That's what my thoughts are.
Well, you also have an excellent book in the picture, or a picture in the book that shows kind of all the various religions that sprung out of this general old equator plane. And they're Christianity, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism.
Right,
Hinduism.
all the great religions
all came out of this general.
Come from this close to the old equator.
Let's talk about Easter Island for just 1 second, because that one is a very anomalous one. I mean, these folks, we've not even been able to decipher their writings. Is that correct?
That's correct. I forgot to mention that. I guess is that there's very few places on the Earth that have writing which we can't decipher, and Easter Island's another one.
Do you think we'll be able to figure out these types of writings before too long?
I don't know. They need to find like a missing clue, right? Like
another Rosetta Stone or something.
Like a Rosetta Stone. But I was starting to say that the Mohenjo-Daro is another of the few places on Earth where there is an undeciphered script, and they're connected through the center of the Earth, and they lie on the old equator, which is sort of a mysterious, right? I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, I don't think so either. Now, wasn't Mohenjo, wasn't that city destroyed?
Right, but they found like a picture writing,
mm-hmm.
Like an old pictographic writing. Both in Sumer and in Egypt, they started with pictographic writings. Or we call like hieroglyphics, right? Hieroglyphics is really a pictographic writing,
mm-hmm.
and that's the type of writing they have found in both Easter Island and Mohenjo-Daro.
Well, let me ask you this: with all these sacred sites kind of laying on this great ley line, as you put it in the book, we started talking about the Anunnaki. Let's talk a little bit about. Obviously, the gods preferred to have really massive, epic pieces of architecture erected in their honor. And also, you mentioned that many of these gods in these different civilizations seem to, bear resemblance to each other. So, for the listener who may not be familiar with a lot of these ideas, are we saying that we are talking about the same sets of gods? Kind of setting up shop in all of these different places along this old equator, and if so, why did they do that?